Hello, I'm James Mayer, and today I'm with Sandra Tavares de Silva at Wine and Soul in the Douro Valley. I recently spoke to a colleague of yours, the great Douro wine personality Cristiano Vanzella, and you used to work with Cristiano at Quinta do Val Dona Maria, and this is what Cristiano said about you. Sandra is the most perfect and knowledgeable person in terms of wine that I know. She has the scientific knowledge and a special gift for wine and blending, which goes beyond this knowledge. What advice would you give to a next generation woman starting out as a winemaker?
Yeah, my first contact to the Douro was at Val Dona Maria at 99 vintage. So I was really in love with the region, and of course Cristiano, it has been always a reference to me. It was the person that introduced me to the Douro and taught me a lot. So he's like my mentor for being a winemaker as I am now. So it's really a privilege to hear these words, because he's really a very special person to me. I think it's so important for women to follow their dreams and to keep believing on themselves, and even things like being a winemaker could have been very challenging for a woman, but it's not. If you really love what and you dream doing it, you should search for that and to fight for doing what you love. And that's what I've done. When I came to the Douro in 1999, we were very few girls in the Douro, and everybody thought I was crazy to come from Lisbon to the Douro Valley. Yeah. And I thought, why not? I love what I'm doing. It's the best experience and the best. And I was really feeling well, and still today I think there's so much more to do, so much more to discover, so much more that I dream to be able to do it. I hope we can make everything what we are dreaming. Yes, 5G, it's a very special port that George inherited a small quantity, and we decided just to bottle very few bottles, because it's a wine with over 100 years old that has been aging at Quinta da Manuela, and it was only served in very special occasions on the family. So we decided that wines are for sharing and sharing emotions, and we thought that it would be very important as well to show and share this wine with other people. So that's why we launched very little quantity of bottles, and I think it's a different 5G. It's a very pure and very delicate tawny port. So while very old ports can be very concentrated and very, for me, too much, concentrated. 5G, because it was aged at Manuel, which is very cool and very humid lodge, it's a very elegant and sophisticated, very old tawny. So it's very, how can I say it? It's very fresh still, very alive. Vintage, it's the fruit of this vineyard, which is an amazing vineyard that we found, and we started making this wine in 2001, which is a vineyard with over, now it's 89 years old, with more than 40 different grape varieties that we are still identifying. But I think 2011, it was a year that everything went perfectly all year long. We had a lot of rainfall during the winter. During the spring was beautiful and sunny, and then summer was warm, but which permitted us to decide the perfect day of picking. 2020, it was a year very challenging in many ways because all the stress of the pandemic and so on. But it was a year that we had a lot of pressure of rain during spring, so we had to do, and we work organically, so we had to cut a lot of the earth by hand, and all the sprayings or what we do with sulfur, we had to do it very more commonly because of the diseases that we could have. But in fact, the then summer was very warm, so we had a very good ripening point, but we had to be very precise and very quick to pick the grapes. And we expect 2020 of vintage will be also a fantastic year. It's showing beautifully already in the barrels.
Vintage, of course, is a field blend.
Yes.
How many different varieties do you have here?
We already identified 42. We are still on process of identifying all the rows and everything, but we do it ampelographically, so just by watching the leaves and watching the bunch and so on.
And the picking, are they all picked at the same time,
yes,
simultaneously?
Yes, they are.
And then you blend in the lagar, in the stone
Yes.
trough?
Yes.
Yes.
They are, and I think this is the biggest advantage and the biggest, secret of the Douro wines. It's having these amazing old vines that were planted. This was a tradition of planting field blends with so many varieties of grapes. And I think the old people, or the generation that started doing this, they were so wise. In order, they would select different varieties depending and with more percentage of some of the others, depending of the altitude, the exposures, and the type of soil, because schist can be very different on the valley. And I think this is so interesting because we can have an amazing balance because they really complement each other, each varieties, you know.
Yes, that's extraordinary, isn't it?
Exactly, and I think with a vineyard like this, it's a pure terroir wine, you know, because it's with so little interference of the winemaker. Of course, we have to know a lot the vineyards and to know and to work during all the year long in the vines, but at the winery, it's so little interventive, and even blending, because it's not blending, it's just it's just tasting the barrels and blending the barrels that comes from the field blend. So I think it's really a treasure that we have here in the Douro. It's really this old vine. Wine and soul, it's really a different, very different philosophy and style of working, because when we started, me and George, in 2001, we didn't have anything, you know, we didn't have any plot of vineyard, but we had the dream of making one wine different, one classic Douro wine. So in our case, you know, we first, and I think it's really important as we work in team, we are two winemakers and both of us are different, so both of us are different in terms of tasting and in terms of styles, so it's really important for us to define the style of the wine that we wanted to create first of all. So that's how we started when we had this dream. We tasted many wines and from many regions and so on, and we had the dream to see, you know, Douro should be a classic region in the world because we have such a fantastic landscape and terroirs. So we, not only us, but a group of that generation of winemakers, and we tasted a lot together and discussed a lot and so on. And so it's funny that we defined priorities. The wine should be, you know, made from very old vines, because we really believe on the old vines of the Douro, and I think this is a treasure and a heritage that should be kept for the next generations. Sure. And because it's in the old vineyard, we have this sense of terroir a lot. And we have these amazing different varieties that you don't have it anywhere else in the world. And then should have concentration, but always acidity and elegance at the same time. So for that, we started looking, so we didn't have any vineyards, as I was mentioning. We started looking for a vineyard that could give us what we thought we could create a wine. So and
in a sense, you were free, weren't you?
Yes,
like
exactly.
Yes,
and
yes.
I think this freedom was really
Marvelous.
amazing, and could, you know, it was everything was we could create. This is Quinta da Manuela Vivi, so it's the Vinhas Velhas. So it's a centenary vineyard that was planted by George's great-great-grandfather after phylloxera when he started to regraft. So this is a vineyard that was particularly interesting because as we were there, you've seen it's all surrounded by the forests, which provides a cooler microclimate and very big difference of temperatures between day and night, which permits us to have a very long ripening cycle. And also the soils here at Manuela are slightly different, so they are more profound, and which permits to have more humidity on the soil as well. And a very special thing here is because it's a field blend, but the varieties that we have here, they are very special because they are not as common. Like here, the predominant varieties are like Tinta Francisca, Rufete, Tinta da Barca, so varieties with less concentration, but very high on acidity.
Yes, a little less typical
yes.
Douro varieties. Yes,
exactly.
So will we be picking up some of those pine needles on?
Yes,
yes?
I think so.
Okay, yeah. Let's see what it's got.
It's a very floral. I think it has lots of these floral notes from the wild flowers that we have, like rosemaries and surrounding the vineyards. But also we have a lot of impact of the bushes, the wild bushes, and also some herbal notes. A light with spiciness and more on the red fruits.
Sandra, it's been an amazing afternoon. Thank you so very, very much. We've had a really good conversation.
No, thank you. It was my pleasure to have you here.
Oh, that's extremely kind. It's great being shown around and the tasting. Really, really, very, very generous. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Bye-bye.
Nice to see you. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.